This morning at the train station in the eastern Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk, Ukrainians are evacuating for safer parts as Russian troops close in. The Ukrainian government yesterday ordered families with children to leave the surrounding area, a sign of how little confidence Ukrainians appear to have that President Trump and Vladimir Putin are about to hammer out a peace deal in Alaska. Viktor Trofimov and his fiancée Daria are heading out of the city. Russia will ask for a little piece of land, he says. The next day, they'll try to take Kyiv. President Zelenskyy, in Europe consulting allies, has warned he thinks Putin doesn't want peace, but to control Ukraine. Overnight, Zelenskyy posting online that Ukraine requires security guarantees. Russia currently occupies about 20% of Ukraine. Ukrainians worry they'll be forced to surrender some or most of that territory under a U.S. brokered deal. Near the Russian border, we came across a funeral for a Ukrainian soldier killed in a recent Russian attack. His grieving mother was barely able to stand. Her son, Andriy Reshetilov, leaves behind 2 children, the youngest a year old. The soldier's brother, Artem, also serving, agreed to speak for everyone.
How are you feeling about the war and peace talks and where all of this is going?
We don't have to compromise with the enemy and give up our beloved land, because this enemy won't stop and will return even stronger, he said. The ceremony was over quickly, perhaps because there was a line.
And even as one funeral is wrapping up, another one is about to begin right next to where the last soldier was buried. Another body is going in.
All the graves here marked with flags are for soldiers. Ukrainians here tell me a bad deal with Russia won't stop the war and could make it worse. Ukrainian soldiers and government officials we've been speaking to all have one piece of advice for President Trump today. Don't take Vladimir Putin at his word. Craig?
Such powerful images there. Our chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, in Ukraine for us. Richard, thank you.
Yeah, that brings us right to NBC's Kristen Welker, moderator of Meet the Press. That actually leads to my first question, Kristen, because the president has certainly gone hot and cold with Putin over the years, famously once crediting Putin, siding with Putin over American intelligence officials in Helsinki, but lately seeming to recognize that what Putin says on the phone isn't always genuine or on the level. So how is he approaching this now?
Savannah, it's a great question. I just spoke to a senior administration official who says the president's mindset today is, quote, realistic, that this is likely a multi-step process, and he's ready and positive about this step forward. But, Savannah, to your point, there is a realism that has set in when you heard President Trump there in Peter's spot talk about the fact that Putin says one thing and then does another thing. So that is at the backdrop here. And one of the big questions I think that U.S. officials have, will Putin try to cloud these talks by bringing up his own agenda items, like trying to get a nuclear arms deal, like pushing the U.S. to relieve sanctions against Russia and Russian oil? Will President Trump, who promised European leaders not to negotiate any territory in this initial summit, be knocked off of his game by President Putin? So that's why this type of a summit carries such high risks. And again, President Trump really putting the focus on the possibility, Savannah, of a second meeting that would include President Zelenskyy.
Kristen, a lot of folks recall President Trump promising to end the war in Ukraine within the first 24 hours of taking office. We are now some 7 months in, if my math's right. I mean, politically, what's at stake for the president here with this summit?
Well, the stakes couldn't be higher because of that campaign promise. And President Trump has now acknowledged that bringing this war to an end has been infinitely more complicated than he initially anticipated. And talking to Western and U.S. officials, they say, look, a win for President Trump today would be to come away from this meeting with a temporary and unconditional ceasefire. That word unconditional, so significant, to give breathing room for a second round of talks. This president has cast himself as the deal maker in chief. He hasn't been able to close this deal. It's arguably the biggest one, Craig.
All right.
Thank you.
Kristen, thank you. And of course, she's going to have the very latest on all of this Sunday and Meet the Press, including good interview. Secretary of State Marco Rubio joining Kristen on Sunday.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.